There is something you have been doing your entire life that you have mistaken for honesty, for connection, for being understood. You have been explaining yourself, justifying your choices, defending your position, offering context no one asked for, softening your decisions with reasons. And you have told yourself this is what good, thoughtful, self-aware people do. You have told yourself that if you could just find the right words, the right sequence of explanation, the right tone, they would finally understand, finally approve, finally stop questioning. And here is what I want you to look at right now before we go any further. Not the explaining itself. Look at what is underneath it. Look at the thing that makes the explaining feel necessary in the first place. Because that thing, that quiet, persistent, exhausting thing, is what is actually running your reality. And the moment you stop looking away from it, everything shifts. Not eventually, not after more work, the moment you see it clearly. This is not a video about confidence. It is not about becoming more assertive or learning to set better boundaries or mastering the art of communication. What we are going to do today is something more precise than any of that. We are going to watch. We are going to observe the exact mechanism that turns you into someone who perpetually explains, justifies, and defends. And we are going to watch it closely enough that it cannot keep operating in the dark, because that is how transformation actually works at the quantum level. Not through force, not through new strategies, through observation so clear and so unflinching that what was hidden can no longer hide. You were never meant to look away, and today you stop. Let's begin with what you actually see when you look at this behavior honestly. Not what you wish it was, not the flattering version, the real version. You explain yourself to people who did not ask for an explanation. You justify decisions that are already made to people who have no authority over them. You offer reasons for your choices to people who were not involved in making them. You feel a kind of low-level anxiety when someone seems confused or disappointed by something you did, and that anxiety does not rest until you have said enough words to make them okay with it, until you have successfully managed their reaction to your existence. Look at that. Sit with that phrase for a moment. Managing their reaction to your existence, because that is what explaining yourself is at its core. It is not communication, it is management. It is the constant, exhausting project of making sure the people around you have a comfortable experience of who you are. And you have been doing it so long, so automatically, that it has started to feel like personality, like integrity, like the decent thing to do. But look closer. What would happen if you stopped, not gradually, right now? What if the next time someone raised an eyebrow at your choice, you simply did not explain? What if you let the silence sit there? What if you allowed them to have whatever reaction they were going to have without rushing in with context and reasons and softening language? Feel that for a moment, really feel it. Because most people, when they imagine that scenario, feel something close to dread. A tightness in the chest, a kind of low panic. And that response, that specific, physical, immediate response, is the thing we need to look at. Because that response is not about communication. It is not about being kind or considerate or clear. That response is about something much older, much deeper, and much more fundamental to how you have been operating than you have been willing to admit. Here is what no one tells you about the need to explain yourself. It is not a habit. It is not a personality trait. It is a survival strategy that has outlived the conditions that created it. And like all survival strategies that no longer match the environment, it does not disappear on its own. It persists, it intensifies, it finds new situations to apply itself to, and it runs your life from a place you cannot see unless you are willing to look directly at it. Let's go into the quantum mechanics of this first, because this is not philosophy. This is measurable. This is precise. And understanding the mechanism is the first act of observation that begins to dissolve its power. In quantum physics, there is a principle so fundamental that it changed everything we thought we knew about the nature of reality. The observer effect. Before a quantum particle is observed, it exists in a state of superposition, a field of multiple simultaneous possibilities. It is not a fixed thing in a fixed location doing a fixed thing. It is a probability wave, a range of potential states all existing at once, none of them collapsed into definite form. And then something extraordinary happens. The moment an observer interacts with that particle, the moment it is measured, watched, detected, the wave function collapses. All those simultaneous possibilities resolve into a single specific outcome. The particle becomes a particle. The possibility becomes a reality. And here is what is so important that I need you to hold it carefully. The act of observation does not reveal what was already there. The act of observation participates in determining what becomes real. This is not metaphor. This is the foundation of modern physics. Niels Bohr, Werner Heisenberg, the double-slit experiment. These are not spiritual concepts. They are the most rigorously tested principles in the history of science. What you observe, you change, not because you are magical, because observation is a physical interaction, because attention is a force, because consciousness and reality are not separate systems where one passively watches the other. They are entangled. They respond to each other. They co-create each other. Now bring that principle directly to what we are looking at today. Every time you explain yourself to someone, you are doing something specific at the level of your own quantum field. You are collapsing your own probability wave. You are taking the vast, open, undefined space of who you are, all the possible ways you could exist, all the possible responses you could choose, all the possible versions of yourself that could emerge in this moment. And you are collapsing it into the shape of someone who needs approval to feel safe. You are not just communicating, you are creating. Every explanation, every justification, every defensive sentence is an act of observation that says, I am someone who requires external validation to feel whole. And because the quantum field responds to the quality and frequency of your observation, it keeps collapsing your reality in that direction. It keeps generating situations that seem to require more explanation, more justification, more defense. This is not what you think it is. You thought explaining yourself was a response to difficult people or unclear situations. But look closer. The explaining is not a response. The explaining is the signal. And the signal keeps calling in the situations that seem to justify it. If this is landing for you, take a second to like this video and subscribe so we can keep going deeper together. Now let's keep watching. Watch what happens in your body when you hear this. There is probably some resistance. Some part of you wants to explain why this is not quite right, why your situation is different, why the people in your life actually do require explanation. Notice that. Notice the impulse to explain, even here, even now, even to a voice in a video. That impulse is precisely what we are watching. And the fact that you can see it, the fact that you can catch it in the act, is the beginning of everything. Let me show you something. Let me take you into a story, because some truths land more deeply when they arrive through narrative rather than analysis. When they come in through the side door of recognition rather than the front door of argument. Watch this carefully. There was a woman named Mira. She was, by most observable measures, successful. She had built a small architecture firm over 12 years, had a team she trusted, had clients who came back to her again and again. She was thoughtful, precise, and deeply good at her work. But there was something that followed her everywhere she went. Something so constant she had stopped noticing it the way you stop noticing the sound of traffic when you live near a highway. Mira explained herself constantly. To her team, she explained her design choices even when they had not questioned them. To her clients, she justified her fees with elaborate breakdowns of time and expertise, even when the clients had already agreed to pay. To her family, she explained why she worked the hours she worked, why she had made the career she had made, why she had not yet married, why she had not yet had children, why she was happy, whether she was actually happy, why her definition of happiness was valid. She explained herself to her friends when she could not make an event. She explained herself to strangers when she made an unusual order at a restaurant. She explained herself in emails with so many qualifications and context sentences that what should have taken 2 lines took 12. And she had a story about all of this. She called it being thorough, being considerate, being the kind of person who does not leave others confused or feeling dismissed. One afternoon, one of her younger architects, a man named Tobias, who had been with the firm for about a year, handed her a revised drawing and said simply, "This is the version I think works." He did not explain why. He did not justify the choices he had made. He did not soften the declaration or add qualifiers. He just said it, and then he waited. And Mira noticed something happen in her chest. Something that felt like irritation, but when she looked at it more carefully, she realized it was not irritation at all. It was recognition. It was the sudden, uncomfortable awareness that she had never once in her professional life handed anyone anything and simply said, "This is what I think." She had always added the reasons, always pre-defended, always made the implicit argument that she was worth listening to, worth trusting, worth taking seriously. And Tobias had not done any of that. He had simply shown up as someone whose work spoke for itself and waited to see what she thought. She went home that evening and she sat with that observation, not trying to fix it, not trying to figure out what to do about it, just watching it. And in the watching, something began to become visible that had been invisible for years. She began to see the architecture of it. She began to trace it back, not to any single event, but to a pattern that had started so early she could not remember a time before it. A pattern that said, "Your existence needs to be justified to be acceptable. Your choices need to be explained to be valid. Your presence needs to be contextualized to be welcome." And she saw, and this is the moment I want you to pay attention to, she saw that this pattern had not been created by the people she was currently explaining herself to. It had been created long ago in a different environment with different people under different conditions, and she had carried it forward into every room she had ever walked into, applying it automatically, reflexively, without ever stopping to ask whether it was still true, whether it was ever true, whether the people she was explaining herself to had actually required the explanation, or whether she had been offering it before they could ask, before they could question, before they could withhold the approval that some part of her had decided she needed. This is the layer underneath. This is what we need to look at now. The need to explain yourself did not begin as a need, it began as a solution. Somewhere in your history, and I'm not asking you to excavate every detail of this, just to look at the shape of it. Somewhere in your history, there was an environment where your choices, your feelings, your ways of being were not simply accepted, where approval had to be earned through explanation, where the wrong move, the wrong answer, the wrong expression of who you were resulted in something that felt dangerous. Not necessarily physically dangerous, emotionally dangerous. The withdrawal of love, the look of disappointment, the silence that meant you had gotten it wrong, the raised voice that meant you had failed to manage someone else's emotional state. And you, being intelligent and adaptive, did what intelligent, adaptive creatures do. You learned the mechanism that seemed to prevent the danger. You learned to pre-explain, to justify before being questioned, to offer your reasoning as a kind of protective buffer between who you were and the reaction of the people around you. And it worked, or it seemed to work, or at least it felt safer than not doing it. And so it became the strategy, and the strategy became the habit, and the habit became so woven into how you move through the world that you stopped experiencing it as a choice. You started experiencing it as who you are. But look closer, it is not who you are. It is what you learn to do to stay safe in a specific environment that no longer exists. The people in your current life are not the people who required that strategy. The situations you are navigating today do not carry the same stakes as the situations that created the pattern. But the nervous system does not know that. The nervous system is not a historian. It is a pattern recognition machine that is always running the most familiar program, regardless of whether the program fits the current situation. And the most familiar program is this: explain yourself before anyone can question you, and you will stay safe. Now here is where the quantum mechanics becomes not just interesting, but essential. Because here's what that program is doing to your reality at a level that most people never see. When you operate from that program, when you explain yourself reflexively, automatically as a baseline mode of being, you are broadcasting a specific frequency. And I use the word frequency deliberately, because this is not metaphor. The electromagnetic field generated by your heart, which has been measured and documented by the Heart Math Institute and others, extends beyond your body. It carries information, it carries the quality of your internal state. And the internal state that generates the explaining behavior is a state of fundamental insufficiency, a state that says, at its core, I am not enough as I am. My existence requires justification. My choices require defense. My presence requires permission, and the field around you carries that signal. And other people, most of whom are not conscious of what they are picking up, respond to it. Not to your words, to the frequency underneath your words. And what they pick up is not confidence, not clarity, not someone who knows who they are and stands in that knowing. What they pick up is the invitation to question, the implicit request for approval, the signal that says, I am not sure I am allowed to be here without your permission, so please tell me I am. And people respond to that signal in predictable ways. Some of them question you more. Some of them lose respect subtly, gradually, without being able to articulate why. Some of them begin to feel that your decisions actually do require their input because you keep asking for it. Some of them get comfortable with a dynamic where you explain and they evaluate because you establish that dynamic first. And then you look at all of this and you think, see, I was right to explain myself. Look how much they question me. Look how much they need to understand my reasoning. And the loop closes. The belief generates the reality. The reality confirms the belief, and the explaining continues. This is not what you think it is. You thought the explaining was a response to demanding people, but the demanding people are a response to the explaining. The signal came first. Now watch what happens when you stop. And I mean really watch this, not as a thought experiment, but as something you can observe in your own experience. Think of a time that it does not have to be dramatic, it can be small. Think of a time when you made a decision and you simply did not explain it. Maybe it was accidental. Maybe you were tired. Maybe you just forgot to justify yourself for once. And the other person either accepted it without question or questioned it, and you simply said something like, "It's what I decided," and moved on. Think about how that felt, and think about what happened next. Because in most cases, when you stop explaining, one of two things happens. Either the other person accepts it, because the absence of explanation signals that there is nothing to question, that the decision is settled, that the matter is closed, or they push back, and in the pushing back, you discover something important, that their pushback was never really about needing information. It was about needing control. And that discovery, while uncomfortable, is clarifying. It is the kind of clarity that only becomes available when you stop flooding the space with explanation, when you let the silence, when you let the dynamic reveal itself. Let's pause here. This is not a thought exercise, this is an observation. I want you to do something right now. Not after the video, right now, in whatever space you are in. Think of one relationship in your life, one person, to whom you explain yourself most frequently. It does not have to be the most significant relationship, just the one that comes to mind first. Hold that person in your awareness. Now notice. When you imagine telling this person a decision you have made, a real one, something you are actually navigating, notice what happens in your body before you even get to the imagined conversation. Notice the preparation that begins, the mental rehearsal of how you will explain it, the anticipation of their reaction, the pre-construction of your defense. Notice how much energy is already being spent right now in this moment, managing a conversation that has not even happened yet. Notice how familiar that feeling is. Notice how automatic it is. And now, just for a moment, just as an experiment in observation, imagine making that same decision and saying nothing. Imagine not explaining, not justifying, not offering context. Imagine simply having made the decision and letting it be made. Notice what happens in your body when you hold that image. Notice what comes up. Name it if you can. Not to fix it, just to see it, just to let it be seen. What you just felt is the thing we are working with. That specific sensation. That tightness, that anxiety, that feeling of something unresolved or unsafe, that is the survival strategy making itself known. And the fact that you can feel it, that you can observe it as a sensation, rather than simply being swept away by it, means you are already in the observer position. You are already watching rather than reacting. And that watching, that simple, clear, unflinching watching, is the beginning of the shift. What did you notice just now when you held that image? What came up in your body the moment you imagined not explaining? Drop it in the comments. One word, one sentence. Just name what you actually observed. Because naming it is its own act of seeing, and seeing it here makes it real. Here's the layer underneath that. Because we have established that the explaining behavior comes from a survival pattern. But there is something even more fundamental beneath the survival pattern. Something that the survival pattern was built to protect. And this is where we need to go now, because if we stop at the survival pattern, we will only be managing the symptom. We need to see the root. The root is this: somewhere along the way, you came to believe that your worth is conditional, that you are acceptable, lovable, welcome, but only if you can successfully explain yourself. Only if you can make your choices make sense to the people around you. Only if you can manage their reactions to your existence with enough skill and enough words that they remain comfortable. And here's what that belief does at the most fundamental level. It makes you a constant performer of your own worthiness. Every conversation becomes an audition. Every decision becomes a test. Every interaction becomes an opportunity to either prove that you deserve to be here or to fail to prove it. And you have been living in that audition your entire life, and you are exhausted. Not because life is hard, because performing your own worthiness is the most exhausting thing a human being can do. Because it never ends. Because there is no final performance that resolves the question. Because the question was never actually being asked by the people you were answering it for. It was being asked by the part of you that decided long ago that the answer was not yet settled. Look at that. Really look at it. The people you have been explaining yourself to have not, in most cases, been asking you to justify your existence. You have been offering that justification because something inside you believed it was required. And that something, that belief, that internal structure, that old decision about your own conditionality has been running your reality from the inside out. Has been generating the situations and the people and the dynamics that seem to confirm it. Has been collapsing your quantum field into the shape of someone who needs permission to exist as they are. And here is the quantum truth of what happens when you see this clearly. Not when you decide to be different, not when you commit to a new strategy, when you see it. When you observe it with the kind of clarity that does not flinch, does not soften, does not rush to fix. When you simply watch the mechanism operating and recognize it for what it is, not as a flaw, not as a failure, but as a strategy that is no longer serving the life you are actually in, something in the field shifts. The wave function begins to reorganize. The probability space begins to expand. Because the observation itself changes what is being observed. Because consciousness and reality are not separate. Because the moment you see the pattern clearly, the pattern is no longer invisible. And invisible patterns are the only ones that have complete power over you. Seen patterns are already halfway dissolved. This is not what you think it is. This is not about willpower or discipline or deciding to be more confident. This is about the fundamental physics of how attention shapes reality, and you are now observing the mechanism, which means it is already changing. Let's go deeper. Because there is a specific way that the explaining behavior manifests in relationships that we need to look at directly, because it is the most damaging version of this pattern and the most invisible. And I want to be precise about this because it requires a kind of unflinching honesty that most conversations about this topic avoid. When you explain yourself chronically, when it is not occasional and situational but constant and reflexive, you are not just managing your own anxiety. You are also inadvertently communicating something to the people around you that undermines the very connection you are trying to protect. You are communicating that you do not trust them to accept you without the explanation. You are communicating that you believe their approval is conditional, which implies that you believe they are the kind of people who would withdraw their approval without sufficient justification. And most people, when they pick up that signal, even unconsciously, even without being able to articulate it, feel subtly diminished by it. Because to be treated as someone who needs to be managed is not the same as being treated as someone who is trusted. And people feel the difference even when they cannot name it. Think about the people in your life who you trust most completely. The ones whose presence feels like rest rather than performance. And notice, are they people to whom you explain yourself constantly? Or are they people with whom you simply exist, with whom you can say, I am not doing that, and have it be enough? With whom you can make a decision and not feel the compulsion to defend it? Because the relationships that feel most like home are almost always the ones where explanation is not required, where presence is sufficient, where you are accepted not because you have successfully justified yourself, but because you are simply, entirely, already enough. And those relationships feel different because the frequency is different. Because the signal you are broadcasting in those relationships is not insufficiency. It is sufficiency. It is wholeness. It is the quiet, settled certainty of someone who knows they are welcome without needing to earn their welcome. And here is the invitation. That signal, that frequency of settled sufficiency, does not have to be reserved for the relationships where you already feel safe. It can be the baseline from which all your relationships operate. It can be the ground state of how you move through the world. But it requires something. It requires that you stop explaining yourself to people who have not asked for the explanation. Not as a performance of confidence, not as a strategy for seeming more together than you feel, but as a genuine act of observation and recognition. The recognition that your worth is not conditional, that your choices do not require external validation to be valid, that your existence does not need to be justified to be welcome. Now let me show you what this actually looks like in practice because I want to be precise. Stopping explaining yourself does not mean becoming cold or withholding or deliberately mysterious. It does not mean refusing to communicate or share your reasoning when it is genuinely useful and genuinely invited. There is a crucial distinction between explanation as communication and explanation as appeasement. And once you see that distinction, you cannot unsee it. Explanation as communication is when you share your reasoning because it serves the conversation, because it helps someone understand something they need to understand to do their job, or because it deepens a connection, or because it is genuinely relevant to a shared decision. Explanation as appeasement is when you share your reasoning because you are afraid of what will happen if you do not. Because you are trying to prevent disapproval, because you are managing someone else's reaction to your existence before they have even had the reaction. Explanation as communication feels expansive. It feels like offering. Explanation as appeasement feels contracted. It feels like defending. and your body knows the difference even when your mind has been blurring the line for years. The practice is not to stop communicating. The practice is to notice the impulse to explain before you act on it and to ask, is this communication or is this appeasement? Am I sharing this because it serves the conversation, or am I sharing it because I am afraid of the silence? And then, and this is the critical part, to let the answer guide you, to be willing to let the silence sit when the silence is what is true, to be willing to let your decision stand without defense when it is already made and already right, to be willing to discover what actually happens when you stop managing everyone's reaction to your existence, because here is what actually happens. And I want to be specific about this because it is counterintuitive enough that you need to hear it clearly. When you stop explaining yourself, two things happen simultaneously. First, the people who are questioning you because you're explaining invited questioning will often stop questioning. Because the signal has changed. Because you are no longer broadcasting insufficiency. Because the absence of unsolicited justification communicates at the frequency level that there is nothing to question, that the matter is settled, that you are someone who knows where they stand. And second, and this is the more important one, the people who continue to question you, who push back, who demand explanation even when none is offered, reveal themselves. They reveal that what they were after was never information, it was control. And that revelation, while it may be uncomfortable in the short term, is one of the most clarifying and ultimately liberating things you can witness, because it allows you to see the dynamic clearly. And a dynamic you can see clearly is a dynamic you can choose to engage with differently. Let me give you the parable that lives at the center of this. Watch this carefully. There was a man named Elias who lived in a city of mirrors, not metaphorical mirrors, actual mirrors everywhere, on every surface, angled in every direction so that no matter where you stood, you could see yourself. The city had been built this way generations ago, and no one remembered exactly why. But the effect was this: every person who lived there had become an expert in how they appeared. They had learned to calibrate their expressions, their postures, their movements to the reflections they could see. They had learned to manage their image with extraordinary precision, and they called this self-awareness. They called it being conscious. They called it knowing yourself. Elias was one of the most skilled image managers in the city. He knew exactly how he appeared from every angle. He knew which expressions read as confident and which read as uncertain. He knew how to hold his shoulders to seem at ease when he was not. He knew how to pace his speech to seem unhurried when he was rushing. And he had been doing this for so long that he had almost completely lost track of the difference between how he appeared and who he was. Almost. There was still something, a small, persistent, quietly insistent something that knew the difference, that knew that all this careful management was not the same as actually being, that knew that the exhaustion he felt at the end of every day was not the exhaustion of someone who had lived fully, but the exhaustion of someone who had been performing continuously. One day, a traveler arrived in the city. Her name was Sola, and she had come from a place with no mirrors at all. And the first thing everyone noticed about her was that she did not calibrate. She did not check her reflection. She did not adjust her expression based on how it appeared from the outside. She simply walked through the city as herself, in whatever form that took in each moment, without managing the image of it. And the people of the city found her deeply unsettling, because she was a reminder of something they had been working very hard not to think about. She was evidence that it was possible to exist without the constant management. And that possibility was terrifying, because if it was possible, then the management was a choice. And if it was a choice, then they had been choosing it. And if they had been choosing it, they could choose differently. Elias watched Sola for 3 days before he spoke to her. And when he finally did, he asked her how she did it, how she moved through the world without checking the mirrors, how she knew who she was if she could not see how she appeared. And Sola looked at him with the kind of clarity that comes from someone who has never learned to look away from things, and she said, "I don't know who I am by looking at my reflection. I know who I am by watching what I actually do, by observing what I actually feel, by noticing what I actually choose when no one is watching. The reflection only tells you how you appear. Watching yourself tells you who you are." And Elias, who had spent his entire life managing his reflection, felt something crack open in his chest, because he realized he had been confusing the two his entire life. He had been so focused on how he appeared, so dedicated to managing the reflection, that he had almost entirely lost contact with the actual interior experience of being himself. He had been explaining himself to the mirrors, justifying himself to the reflections, defending his choices to the angles and surfaces, and none of it had ever told him anything true about who he was. It had only told him how he appeared, and how you appear is not who you are. And you have been both Elias and the mirrors. You have been the one explaining and the one demanding the explanation. You have been the one managing the reflection and the one watching the reflection for signs of approval. But today, right now, in this moment, you are Sola. You are the one who has stopped checking the mirror. You are the one who is watching what you actually do, actually feel, actually choose. And in that watching, something is becoming visible that the mirror never showed you. The actual shape of who you are, the actual ground of your own sufficiency, the actual unmanaged, unjustified, unreflected reality of a person who does not need to explain themselves to exist. Has there been a moment in your life when you stopped explaining something and just let it stand? And what happened next surprised you? Share it in the comments. What did you see when you stopped defending and just watched? Here's what that reveals. When you stop explaining yourself, when you genuinely, from the inside out, stop needing to justify your existence to the people around you, you discover something that might be the most important discovery available to a human being. You discover that you were sufficient before the explanation, that you were worthy before the justification, that your choices were valid before the defense, that your presence was welcome before the permission. And you discover that you have always known this, that some part of you has always known this, that the part of you that got tired, that felt the exhaustion of constant performance, was the part that knew, all along, that the performance was not necessary, that the explaining was not required, that the sufficiency was already there, already complete, already real, waiting for you to stop looking away from it long enough to see it. This is the quantum shift. This is what changes when you stop explaining yourself. Not the external circumstances first, the internal frequency first. The signal you are broadcasting changes. The quality of your observation of yourself changes. And because the quantum field collapses in response to the observer's state, the reality that forms around you begins to reorganize. The people who are questioning you because you invited questioning begin to stop. The relationships that were built on the dynamic of explanation and evaluation begin to either shift into something more equal or reveal themselves as relationships that only worked when you were performing your worthiness. And the space that opens up, the space that was previously occupied by all that explaining, all that justifying, all that managing, begins to fill with something different, with actual presence, with actual connection, with the kind of interaction that is only possible between two people who are both simply being themselves, without management or performance, or the constant low-level anxiety of someone who is not yet sure they are allowed to be here. Let's go into the specific situations where this pattern operates most powerfully, because I want to be precise about this. I want to look at the exact moments where the impulse to explain is strongest, because those are the moments where the pattern is most visible and where the practice of observation is most powerful. The first is when you change your mind. Watch what happens in your body when you imagine telling someone that you have changed your mind about something, that you are no longer going to do the thing you said you would do, that you have decided differently than you decided before. The impulse to explain is almost overwhelming in that moment because changing your mind feels like evidence of unreliability, like something that needs to be accounted for, like a failure that requires mitigation. And so you explain. You offer the full history of your reasoning. You show your work. You demonstrate that the change was justified, logical, arrived at through a legitimate process. And in doing so, you inadvertently communicate that changing your mind is something that requires justification, which means you have implicitly agreed that it does. Which means the next time you change your mind, the expectation of explanation will be even stronger, because you established the precedent. But here is what is true. Changing your mind is not a failure. It is not a breach of contract. It is not evidence of unreliability. It is evidence of a living, responsive intelligence that is capable of updating based on new information or new understanding. It is one of the most human and most valuable things you can do. And it does not require explanation, it requires communication. The simple, clear communication that you have decided differently. But not justification, not defense, not the elaborate demonstration that the change was earned. The communication is, I've changed my mind. And then, if someone asks why in a way that is genuinely curious rather than demanding, you can choose to share. But the choice is yours, and the sharing is a gift, not a debt. The second situation is when you make a choice that someone else would not make, when you choose a path, a lifestyle, a relationship, a career, a belief, a way of spending your time that differs from what the people around you would choose. And the explaining in these situations is often the most elaborate, the most anxious, the most exhausting. Because the implicit message in someone else's raised eyebrow or concerned question is, you have chosen wrong. And your response, your explanation, is the attempt to prove that you have not, that your choice is valid, that you have good reasons, that you have thought it through, that you are not making a mistake. But look at what you are doing when you do that. You are accepting the premise that their standard is the correct standard by which your choice should be evaluated. You are entering the argument on their terms. You are agreeing implicitly that the question of whether your choice is valid is an open question that requires resolution. And it is not. Your choices are not a question. They are a statement. And the difference between a question and a statement is everything. When you explain your choices to people who did not ask for the explanation, you are turning your life into a question. You are making it available for evaluation. You are opening it up for the kind of scrutiny That can only happen when you have signaled that scrutiny is welcome. And then you wonder why people keep scrutinizing. Because you invited them in. Because you handed them the role of judge by presenting yourself as someone who needs to be judged. And the moment you stop doing that, the moment you present your life as a statement rather than a question, the dynamic shifts. Not because the people around you have changed, because the signal has changed, because you have changed what you are asking for. The third situation is the most intimate and the most painful, and I want to look at it directly because it is the one that most people avoid. It is when you explain yourself in romantic relationships, when you justify your emotional responses to a partner, when you defend your needs as reasonable, when you offer elaborate context for why you feel what you feel, as if your feelings require a permit to exist. This is where the pattern is most costly, because in intimate relationships, the constant explaining creates a specific dynamic that slowly erodes the foundation of the connection. When you explain your feelings as if they require justification, you are communicating to your partner that you do not trust them to accept your emotional reality as it is. You are treating your own inner experience as something that needs to be made palatable before it can be shared. And the partner who receives this, even if they love you, even if they are doing their best, begins to unconsciously understand their role as the person who evaluates your feelings and decides whether they are acceptable. And that is not partnership. That is a performance review. The shift in intimate relationships is not to stop sharing your emotional reality. It is to share it as a statement rather than a defense. Not, I know this might seem like an overreaction, but the reason I feel this way is because, but rather, I feel this, full stop. Not because you are being withholding or dramatic, but because your feelings are not overreactions that need to be pre-defended. They are your feelings. They are real. They are valid by virtue of being felt, not by virtue of being successfully explained. And the partner who can receive that, who can sit with your stated feeling without requiring justification, is the partner with whom actual intimacy is possible. And the partner who cannot, who pushes back, who questions whether your feeling is warranted, that response tells you something important. Not about you, about the dynamic, about whether this is a relationship of equals or a relationship of performer and judge. Look at that. Sit with what you just saw. Now let's go into the practice, the real practice, not the theory of it, but the actual lived experience of what it means to stop explaining yourself. Because this is not something you decide once and then it is done. It is a practice. It is an ongoing act of observation and choice. And like all practices, it begins with small moments and builds into a different way of being. The practice has 3 movements. Watch them carefully. The first movement is the pause. Before you explain, you pause. Not a long pause. Not a dramatic pause. Just the half-second of space between the impulse and the action. The moment where you notice, I am about to explain myself. And in that noticing, you have already entered the observer position. You are no longer the one being swept along by the impulse. You are the one watching the impulse. And from the observer position, you have a choice that you did not have before. The second movement is the question. In that pause, you ask yourself one question. Is this communication or appeasement? Am I about to share this because it serves the conversation, or because I'm afraid of what happens if I do not? And you wait for the honest answer. Not the flattering answer, not the answer that makes you seem considerate and thorough. The honest answer, the one your body already knows, the one that is available to you the moment you stop rushing past it. The third movement is the choice. If the answer is communication, you speak. You share your reasoning because it genuinely serves the moment. And you do it without the defensive framing, without the pre-apology, without the elaborate justification of the justification. You just share the relevant information cleanly and directly. If the answer is appeasement, you do something different. You let the silence be. You let your decision stand without defense. You allow the other person to have whatever reaction they are going to have, and you observe it without rushing to manage it. You let the dynamic reveal itself. You let the truth of the situation become visible, and what you will discover in the practicing of this is that the silence is almost never as dangerous as the anxiety predicted it would be. That most of the time when you stop explaining, the other person simply accepts the thing you were so desperate to justify. That the elaborate defense you were preparing was not actually required. That the approval you were so anxious to secure was never actually in question. And occasionally, not often, but occasionally, you will discover that it was in question. That someone did push back. That someone did demand the explanation you did not give. And in those moments, you will discover something even more valuable. You will discover who you are when you are not performing your worthiness. You will discover that you can stand in the discomfort of someone's disapproval without dissolving. That you can let someone be disappointed in your choice without needing to immediately fix their disappointment. That you can exist in the presence of someone who does not approve of you without that disapproval determining your value. And that discovery, that specific, lived, embodied discovery, is worth more than any amount of successfully managed approval, because it is the discovery of your own ground, your own sufficiency, your own unshakable, unjustifiable, unreflected worth. Pause here again. This is not a thought exercise. This is an observation. I want you to bring to mind a recent moment when you explained yourself and you did not need to. A moment when you justified a decision or defended a choice or offered context that was not asked for. Hold that moment in your awareness, not with judgment, with observation. Watch it. See the exact moment when the impulse arose. See what you felt in your body. See the words you chose. See the response of the other person. And now, just as an experiment in clear seeing, imagine the same moment without the explanation. Imagine saying the thing you said or doing the thing you did, and then simply being quiet. Imagine letting the decision stand as a statement rather than a question. Notice what is different. Notice what becomes possible in the space that the explanation was filling. Notice who you are in that version of the moment. Notice how you feel. Notice what the other person's response might have been. Just watch it. Just let yourself see it, and let what you see be enough. What you just observed is the version of yourself that is waiting for you on the other side of this pattern. Not a more guarded version, not a colder version, a more present version. A version that is fully here, fully itself, fully available for genuine connection, precisely because it has stopped spending its energy managing everyone else's reaction to its existence. Here's what I want to say to those of you who are watching this and thinking, but you do not understand my specific situation. You do not understand the people I am dealing with. You do not understand the environment I am in, the culture I come from, the relationships I am navigating. And I want to say, you are right that every situation is specific. You are right that there are contexts where clear, thorough communication is genuinely necessary. You are right that there are relationships with real power dynamics where the stakes of not explaining are real. I am not asking you to be reckless. I am not asking you to stop communicating. I am asking you to look honestly at the distinction between the moments where explanation serves you and the moments where it costs you. I am asking you to notice the difference between communication and appeasement in your own specific life, in your own specific relationships. Because you already know the difference. Your body already knows the difference. The question is whether you are willing to let that knowing guide you. And I want to say something else to those of you who recognize this pattern and feel underneath the recognition something that might be grief. Because sometimes when we see clearly what we have been doing, when we understand the cost of a pattern we have been running for years or decades, there is grief in that seeing. Grief for the energy spent. Grief for the relationships shaped by the dynamic. Grief for the version of yourself that has been performing its worthiness for so long. That grief is real. It is valid, and it does not require explanation. You do not need to justify it or defend it or make it make sense to anyone. You can simply let it be what it is, the recognition of something that is now seen and therefore changed. Because this is the quantum truth that I want to leave you with. The moment you see the pattern clearly, not with judgment, not with the urgency to fix it, but with the clear, unflinching, compassionate observation of someone who is finally willing to look. The pattern is already different, not gone, not instantly dissolved, but different, because invisible patterns have complete power over you. Seen patterns are already in the process of transformation. The observation is not a step toward the change. The observation is the change. The seeing is the shifting. The looking is the letting go. You have been explaining yourself your entire life, and underneath all of that explaining, underneath all of that justifying and defending and managing, there has been a person. A whole, sufficient, complete person who has never actually needed the explanation to be worthy of being here, who was always already enough, who has been waiting patiently, persistently, with the kind of quiet certainty that does not need to announce itself, for you to stop performing long enough to notice them, to notice yourself, the actual self, not the managed reflection, the real ground, not the justified position. And here's what happens when you meet that person, when you stop explaining long enough to actually inhabit who you are. The relationships that are built on the real you become more real. The connections that were possible only through performance fall away, not with drama, not with conflict, but with the quiet inevitability of things that were never quite true finding their natural end. And the space that opens, the space that was previously filled with all that explaining, all that managing, all that exhausting performance, begins to fill with something extraordinary, with presence, with ease, with the kind of genuine, unguarded, unmanaged connection that is only available between people who have stopped auditioning for each other. And your relationship with yourself changes. This is perhaps the most important thing. Because when you stop explaining yourself to others, you also gradually and then suddenly stop explaining yourself to yourself. You stop the internal monologue of justification. You stop the constant internal audition where you are simultaneously the performer and the judge. You stop the exhausting project of managing your own self-image and begin the quieter, richer, more real project of actually observing yourself, of watching what you actually feel, actually want, actually choose, actually are, without the mirror, without the performance, without the explanation. Just the clear, direct, honest observation of a person who has finally decided that they are worth looking at without justification. And that observation, that simple, radical, world-reorganizing act of seeing yourself clearly and finding that what you see is already enough, that is the most powerful thing you can do, not because it is a strategy, not because it will get you specific outcomes, but because it is true. Because it is what is actually real underneath all the performance and all the explaining and all the exhausting management of everyone's reaction to your existence. You are already enough. You have always been already enough. And the moment you see that clearly, the moment you stop looking away from the simple, complete, unjustifiable fact of your own sufficiency, everything shifts. Not eventually. Now, in the seeing, let's talk about what this looks like in the days ahead. Because I want to be practical about this. I want to give you something you can actually use, not just a beautiful idea to carry around and occasionally think about. The practice I am giving you is simple. It has one instruction. For the next 7 days, every time you feel the impulse to explain yourself, pause. Just pause. Half a second, one breath, and notice the impulse. Notice where it lives in your body. Notice what it feels like. Notice what it is asking for. You do not have to do anything else. You do not have to change your behavior immediately. You do not have to be perfect at this. You just have to notice. You just have to see it. Because the noticing, the simple, consistent, patient act of observing the impulse without immediately acting on it is the practice, and the practice done consistently begins to create space between the impulse and the action, space where choice becomes possible, space where you can ask, is this communication or appeasement, space where you can let the answer guide you. And in that space, over days and then weeks, something begins to change. Not because you forced it, because you saw it. Because you watched it clearly enough and long enough that it began to reorganize in the light of your attention. This is what the quantum observer does, not force, not control, not manifest. Watch. Watch with such clarity and such consistency that the probability field has no choice but to reorganize around the quality of the observation. Watch yourself long enough, clearly enough, without looking away, and what you see begins to become what is real. I want to speak directly to something now, something that I know some of you are holding as you listen to this. Some of you are thinking, this is all well and good, but I have people in my life who genuinely do require explanation, who will genuinely cause problems if I stop justifying myself, who have real authority over aspects of my life, and who use that authority in ways that make the explaining feel necessary for survival. And I want to acknowledge that this is real. There are situations where the power dynamics are not equal, where the cost of not explaining is genuinely high, where the practice needs to be applied with wisdom and discernment rather than as a blunt instrument. I am not asking you to be reckless. I am not asking you to stop communicating in situations where communication genuinely matters. I am asking you to look honestly, to observe clearly, at how many of the situations you are explaining yourself and actually fall into that category. versus how many of them are situations where the explaining is driven by anxiety rather than necessity. Because most people, when they look honestly, discover that the genuinely high-stakes situations are far fewer than the anxiety made them seem, and that the vast majority of the explaining they do is not in response to real necessity, but in response to the old survival pattern running its familiar program, regardless of whether the current situation actually requires it. And that distinction between genuine necessity and anxious habit is one of the most important things you can learn to see clearly, because it is the distinction that gives you back your choice. Now I want to speak to the community of people who are watching this, because there is something that happens when a group of people all begin to observe the same pattern at the same time. When a field of observers turns its collective attention toward the same thing, the quantum field responds to collective observation differently than it responds to individual observation. The clarity amplifies, the probability space expands, the transformation accelerates, and you are not watching this alone. There are people all over the world right now watching this same transmission, observing the same pattern in themselves, sitting with the same recognition, feeling the same shift. And that collective field of clear seeing, that shared act of unflinching observation, is something real. Something that extends beyond the individual into the shared space where transformation becomes not just personal, but cultural. Where the shift in one person's frequency contributes to the shift in the collective frequency. Where your willingness to stop explaining yourself gives someone else permission to stop explaining themselves. Where your act of clear seeing makes the seeing clearer for everyone. So if something in this transmission landed for you, if something cracked open, if something became visible that was invisible before, share that. Not to explain it, not to justify why it resonated, just to name it, just to say, I see it. Because the naming is an act of observation, and the observation, shared, becomes a field, and the field becomes a force, and the force reorganizes reality. Drop a word in the comments. One word for what you observed during this transmission. Not a paragraph, not an explanation. One word. Let it be a statement, not a question. Let it be the beginning of the practice. Here is the integration principle I want to leave you with. Write this somewhere you will see it, not as a reminder to be different, as a reminder to observe. The principle is this: your worth is not a question that requires an answer. It is a fact that requires only recognition. And recognition is not something you earn through explanation. It is something you choose through observation. The moment you observe your own sufficiency clearly enough to stop defending it, the world reorganizes around that clarity. Not because the world is magical, because you are the observer, and the observer is the most powerful position in the universe, not because it controls, because it sees, and what it sees clearly, it changes. You have been explaining yourself for years, decades, possibly your entire life. And in all that explaining, all that justifying, all that managing of everyone's reaction to your existence, you have been broadcasting a signal that said, I am not yet sure I am enough. And the field responded, and the situations kept coming, and the people kept questioning, and the explaining kept being required, because the signal kept calling it in. But today, something shifted. Today you looked at the mechanism. You watched it clearly. You saw the survival strategy for what it is, an old solution to an old problem, running in a new environment where it is no longer needed. And the seeing, the simple, unflinching, compassionate seeing, has already begun to change the signal, has already begun to reorganize the field, has already begun to collapse the probability wave in a different direction. Not because you decided to be different, because you saw clearly. And clarity is the only force that transforms without resistance. You are not here to fix your life. You are here to watch it transform the moment you stop looking away. And you just did. You just looked directly at the thing you have been avoiding. And it did not destroy you. It did not confirm your worst fears. It revealed something far more important. It revealed the person underneath the explaining. The person who was always already enough. The person who has been waiting patiently and persistently for you to stop performing long enough to simply be. That person is you, the actual you, the one who does not need to justify their existence, the one who does not need to earn their welcome, the one who does not need to manage anyone's reaction to their presence, the one who can walk into a room and simply be in it fully, without the constant low-level anxiety of someone who is not yet sure they are allowed to be there. That is who you are, and now you see it, and what has been seen cannot be unseen. The observer is the most powerful position in the universe, not because it controls, because it sees, and what you watch, you change. What you avoid controls you. You were never meant to look away, and now you have stopped. If this transmission gave you something real, if something shifted, if something became visible that was invisible before, share it with someone who needs to stop explaining themselves. Give them the courage to look, because when you pass this to someone else, you are not just sending them a video. You are giving them permission to see what they have been avoiding. And that act of sharing creates something between you, a field of mutual observation where both of you become clearer, where your willingness to look makes it easier for them to look, and where their seeing in turn deepens yours. The field of observers grows one clear seeing at a time, and every person who stops performing their worthiness makes it easier for the next person to stop, and the next, until the whole field shifts, until the whole frequency changes, until the whole world reorganizes around the quiet, fierce, unshakable clarity of people who have finally decided they are enough. Stay in the observation, stay in the clarity, and whatever you do, whatever you choose, whatever you decide, whatever direction your life takes from this moment forward, do not explain yourself to anyone who did not ask. Let your life be a statement. Let your choices stand. Let your presence be sufficient. Because it is. It always was. You just needed to look. And if you want to take this observation even further, watch once you see the autopilot running everyone around you. Nothing looks the same. It goes directly into the unconscious programs operating beneath every interaction. The ones you cannot see until you learn to watch them the way you just watched this one. That seeing will change how you read every room you walk into,